Two students were in the middle of a sparring match. One punch landed hard, and the student who took the hit complained that it hurt like hell. He laughed it off, noting that Su-hong's Vajra fist had clearly improved again. He wondered aloud if Su-hong had already stepped into the micro level. Su-hong stayed calm and replied that he had only broken through to the micro level 2 days ago. In this world, martial arts were divided into specific ranks: basic, proficient, micro level, mastered, and perfect. Reaching the micro level already put someone far ahead of most of their peers. The other student couldn't help but admire him, saying that when it came to the Vajra fist, no one else in their class could even compare. He then asked if Su-hong was done resting so they could continue practicing. But the pain from that single punch was still stinging, and he actually had no intention of taking another hit. Calling Su-hong a cultivation maniac, he waved him off and said he was heading home to eat. Before leaving the training hall, he politely said goodbye to Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee reminded him to straighten up his clothes before walking out. Then, the teacher turned to Su-hong and stopped him. He asked why Su-hong still hadn't paid the 30,000 registration fee for the martial arts department, reminding him that applications were closing next month. Su-hong hesitated for a moment before asking if he could be given a few more days. Teacher Lee sighed, saying he understood Su-hong's family situation. But rules were rules, and there was nothing he could do to change them. After everyone else had left, Su-hong stayed behind and continued to practice alone. No matter how many times he repeated his forms, one thought kept circling in his mind: the 30,000 registration fee. His memories drifted back to the past. When he was 3 years old, his parents had died during a disaster caused by ferocious beasts. Since then, he had lived with his uncle and aunt. After they discovered his talent for martial arts, they had done everything in their power to support his training. In an era where ferocious beasts roamed freely, becoming a martial artist was the best way to earn good money. He had trained hard to give them a better life, yet right now, it felt like he was only making things harder for them. Later, he returned to a quiet corner of the city, arriving at the cramped, worn-down apartment he called home. Inside, his aunt asked softly whether the rent was almost due and how much money they were still short. His uncle said the rent could wait and that little Hong's registration fee needed to be paid first. His aunt agreed, mentioning that with such talent, Su-hong was sure to succeed one day, and they couldn't afford to hold him back. Then she added casually that she would stop taking her medicine. It wasn't curing her anyway, and stopping would save them money. His uncle immediately objected, telling her he would just take on another job instead. He insisted she stay home, rest properly, and focus on her health, assuring her that everything else would work out. Hearing all of this from the shadows, Su-hong felt a tight ache in his chest, and a wave of sadness washed over him. He couldn't help but feel that this was a stupid, messed up world. It had twisted his life into something he barely recognized. Everywhere he looked, people were greedy. Even if someone simply wanted to register for something they were talented at, they still had to pay money for it. Money he had no talent for earning. If he had actually been good at making money, he probably wouldn't have had talent for martial arts at all. The more he thought about it, the crazier the world seemed. Pushing those dark thoughts aside, he opened the door and called out that he was back. His aunt, who treated him like her own son, immediately fussed over him, asking why he had practiced so late and telling him he must be exhausted. Su-hong tried to take over the chores, telling her he would handle them, but she waved him off. She insisted it was nothing and told him to go rest so he wouldn't be tired the next day. His uncle backed her up, telling him to listen and go to bed quickly. Su-hong returned to his room, but sleep refused to come. He lay there, wide awake, his thoughts running in circles. His uncle and aunt had already sacrificed so much for him. He couldn't keep letting that happen. This time, he would solve his own problem. For a martial artist to earn tens of thousands in just a few days, there was only one place that came to mind. The very next day, a loud announcement echoed through the streets. The crowd was welcomed to the Martial Apprentice Arena Challenge, a place where only victory or defeat mattered, regardless of life or death. It was the underground martial arena. The announcer's voice rose with excitement as she introduced the ring defender for the day, a fighter called Mr. Minotaur. The rules were simple. If he could win 4 matches in a row, he would walk away with 60,000 in prize money. If not, he would get nothing. The crowd was told to watch closely. The audience immediately erupted in whispers. No one recognized him. Some guessed he was a rookie, while others scoffed, saying a newcomer jumping straight into the arena challenge was basically courting death. Off to the side, the announcer leaned over and whispered to the kid to show some passion and heat up the atmosphere. The boy looked confused and asked how he was supposed to do that. The announcer sighed and told him to provoke the crowd or curse a little, muttering that this was exactly why rookies were such a headache. Realization dawned on the Minotaur. Letting out a roar, he shouted that below the level of a formal martial artist, he was invincible, challenging all weaklings to come and fight him. The crowd exploded at once. Some cursed him for being absurdly arrogant, while others laughed and praised his guts. The atmosphere instantly boiled over. Someone in the crowd sneered that this guy wouldn't even know how he died later. That only lit the fuse. Cheers erupted from every direction. Some people shouted their approval, others yelled for blood, and a few just screamed insults at the so-called Minotaur. With the atmosphere at its peak, the announcer declared that the match had officially begun. Behind the Minotaur mask, Su Hong stayed calm. He could clearly feel the heavy killing intent unique to the underground arena. Still, this was the fastest way to gather enough tuition money. As long as he could win a few rounds with his Vajra fist, it would be worth it. His first opponent stepped forward, calling him an arrogant brat and saying he would play with him a little. Su Hong barely paid attention, his eyes calmly sizing the man up. The opponent's momentum was strong, but his footing was unstable. From the look of it, winning wouldn't be difficult. Seeing him space out, the opponent cursed and charged straight in with a punch. Su Hong sidestepped it cleanly, then casually swung his other hand. The strike landed squarely on the man's jaw, sending him flying straight back to where he had come from. The announcer instantly lost her composure. She was already starting to love this masked fighter, even joking to herself that she might want to ask him out later. Laughing into the microphone, she shouted that Minotaur had taken his first win. The crowd exploded with excited shouts and cheers. A second challenger stepped up, scoffing that the last guy had just been unlucky, but things would be different this time. Su Hong simply replied with a casual, "please," while calmly judging his opponent. Based on his build, the guy's strength looked decent, perfect for testing how powerful his Vajra fist really was. The man shouted and leaped in with a heavy punch. Su Hong met the attack head-on. With one Vajra fist strike, he shattered the incoming force. The opponent cried out in shock at the sheer power behind the blow. Su Hong could already tell the difference. This guy was strong, but still weaker than him. After taking a single counterattack, the opponent had relied too much on his upper body strength, leaving his waist wide open. Su Hong followed up with a brutal kick, and the man was sent flying off the stage just like the first one. The arena went wild. Some people cursed in disbelief, while others shouted that he was insanely strong. Next! The announcer excitedly declared that Minotaur had achieved 2 consecutive wins. The cheers grew even louder, becoming almost deafening. In a quieter corner, a few well-dressed spectators watched with sharp eyes. One of them muttered that the kid wasn't even a quasi-martial artist, yet his strength far surpassed the average. There was no doubt about it. This one was unusual. The announcer's voice rang out again, declaring Minotaur's 3rd consecutive win. In the viewing area, one of the men watching commented that the kid was better than the worst, but nowhere near the best. Someone like that, he noted, was perfect material for match fixing. From behind him, a masked young man spoke up, saying he would go handle it. The older man reminded him not to reveal the fact that he had already broken through to the martial artist level. After racking up so many wins, Su Hong felt increasingly confident. Ordinary martial apprentices were no longer much of a challenge to him. With his Vajra fist at the micro level, winning one more match would earn him the full 60,000 prize money. Just then, the crowd suddenly stirred. People started shouting that White Fox was actually stepping into the ring. The moment the masked fighter appeared, the arena erupted. Some exclaimed that White Fox was a quasi-martial artist. Others protested that a quasi-martial artist fighting a martial apprentice was basically cheating. Su Hong's heart sank slightly. A quasi-martial artist? This match was going to be troublesome. Still, backing down wasn't an option. He couldn't afford to lose now. White Fox stopped in front of him and studied him calmly before speaking. He told Su Hong not to be afraid, claiming he knew how to hold back his strength. The announcer's voice cut in again, declaring the final match of the arena challenge and shouting for the fight to begin. Both fighters exploded forward at full speed. Su Hong immediately sensed the gap in their levels. His cultivation was lower, so he had no choice but to go all out with his opening move. His punch blasted forward, sending visible shockwaves rippling through the air. The collision shook the ring as both sides displayed frightening power. The instant their fists met, Su Hong's heart skipped a beat. He noticed something was wrong. His opponent wasn't a quasi-martial artist at all. He was a true martial artist who had deliberately suppressed his vitality. A surge of tension washed over Su Hong. He had never expected a monster like this to appear out of nowhere. White Fox took a sharp breath and launched another attack, unleashing the Thunder Rush Fist. One strike followed another in rapid succession, each blow heavier than the last. Under the relentless assault, Su Hong was forced back, pain spreading through his body. So this was the strength of a real martial artist. The crowd was stunned. Someone recognized the technique, shouting that it was the 3-Echo Thunder Rush Fist. No one had expected to see such a move here, and the surprise alone was worth the ticket price. Others shook their heads, saying the Minotaur was finished. To them, the outcome was already obvious. Yet White Fox showed no intention of stopping, his attacks continuing one after another, pressing the advantage without mercy. After a while, White Fox clearly started getting bored. He told Minotaur that only defending was pointless, and urged him to fight back, saying he wanted to see what kind of strength he really had. For now, Minotaur could do nothing but block. Even through his defenses, the punches were tearing into him, pain spreading with every impact. If this kept up, he knew he would lose for sure. He needed a chance to counterattack, but White Fox's strikes were too fast and too relentless, leaving no openings at all. Then White Fox found an opening himself, a punch shot straight toward Minotaur's jaw. The impact sent him flying, and he crashed hard onto the ground. Lying there, his vision blurred as his consciousness began to fade. Before he could recover, White Fox stepped up and spoke calmly. He told Su Hong that he wouldn't get a single coin of the prize money from this match, but his teacher was willing to invite him in. If Minotaur agreed to fix matches for them in the future, they would pay him the equivalent of this match's prize money. Even with White Fox's foot pressing down on his face, Minotaur refused without hesitation. He said he would never do something so shameless. White Fox was briefly taken aback. He hadn't expected such a firm rejection. Regaining his composure, he warned him to think carefully, saying that refusing them came with a price he couldn't afford. Minotaur shot back, asking whether people who did things like this really deserved to call themselves martial artists. That was enough. White Fox said there was nothing left to discuss. As he turned to leave, he coldly added that since Minotaur wouldn't cooperate, he had no choice but to cripple him, ensuring he could only dream about being a martial artist in the future. As White Fox moved to strike his leg, those words echoed in Minotaur's mind, sharp and piercing. Become a martial artist. A surge of instinct kicked in. He twisted away at the last moment, narrowly avoiding the blow. He couldn't afford to be crippled. Forcing himself back up, Minotaur re-entered the fight. White Fox stared in surprise as Minotaur steadied himself, his eyes burning with determination. He couldn't fall here. Not here. Something snapped inside him and a second wind surged through his battered body. White Fox couldn't hide his shock. He had clearly landed a Thunder Rush fist earlier, yet somehow this guy was still standing. Yet in his heart, Su Hong remained painfully clear-headed. He wanted to become a martial artist. He couldn't allow the sacrifices his uncle and aunt had made over all these years to be wasted. He wanted to give them a good life. But did that really mean he had to abandon everything a martial artist was supposed to stand for? The answer came almost instantly. No. That kind of future was something he would never accept. At that very moment, something strange happened. A status window suddenly appeared right in front of his eyes. Cold, emotionless words floated on the screen, asking what he was willing to sacrifice for his future and for his faith. Su Hong didn't hesitate. His eyes burned with fierce resolve as he answered, without the slightest doubt, that he was willing to give up everything. The system asked once more if he was truly willing to pay the price. Minotaur gave the same answer as before. Everything. The moment the word left his mouth, something deep inside him began to change. His shadow twisted and stretched, transforming into the outline of a terrifying monster. Su Hong was stunned. He didn't know where he was, and the shadow looming behind him belonged to a massive, unknown creature. Before he could ask anything, the massive presence spoke, granting him this chance. A strange aura wrapped around Su Hong, and a status window appeared, listing all his details. Su Hong stared in disbelief. It displayed every single one of his attributes. Acting on impulse, he tapped the mission section. A notification for a random mission. Way of the Arena popped up. To defeat White Fox, he had to raise his Vajra Fist to mastered level and refine his floating light palm and Void Step to micro level. It was a brutal task given his current low proficiency, but necessary to unlock the beginner's guide. Su Hong was confused by the sudden information, but before he could think, a fist flew straight toward his face. Su Hong ducked instinctively. When he looked up, he froze. Standing before him was a perfect clone. The copy moved with textbook form, using a level of Vajra Fist far beyond his own. Every move was standard and precise. With such a flawless example right in front of him, he couldn't let the opportunity slip. As he exchanged blows with the clone, he realized this wasn't just a fight, it was a lesson. Midway through, he noticed his Vajra Fist proficiency had jumped up. It went from 7% to 10% in moments. The improvement was shockingly fast. So this was the trick. This place allowed him to rapidly upgrade his martial arts skills. He kept fighting, learning and adjusting his form with every clash. His proficiency climbed higher until it finally hit 100%. His floating light palm reached full mastery, and he sent the clone flying. His Void Step followed, reaching full proficiency. Finally, the Vajra Fist was perfected. Exhaustion caught up to him. Breathing heavily, Su Hong nodded to the empty air. Thanks a lot. The system congratulated him on completing the mission. Su Hong accepted the rewards and immediately chose to return to reality. Instantly, he was back in the arena wearing the Minotaur mask, standing opposite White Fox. White Fox sneered and unleashed another round of thunderous fist. The blows were fierce, but Minotaur calmly noted they were too slow. He slipped past every strike with ease. Before White Fox could react, Su Hong's fist slammed into his face. The mask shattered and White Fox crashed to the ground. The crowd froze, staring in disbelief. Minotaur calmly asked for his prize money for winning the fourth match. The stunned announcer fumbled for words before finally declaring Minotaur the winner of the 60,000 grand prize. In the audience, the teacher frowned. A mere apprentice mastering the Vajra fist was impossible. Suspicious, he ordered his men to follow Minotaur and investigate his identity. Leaving the arena, Su Hong sensed he was being followed. He burst into motion, his speed exploding as he vanished from their sight. The pursuers stopped in confusion, unable to track him. Hidden safely, Su Hong mocked their clumsy attempt. An hour later, he returned home. His aunt and uncle were stunned by the large pile of money. His uncle asked if he robbed a bank. Su Hong explained he worked as a sparring partner, and the dojo master decided to sponsor his studies. The uncle asked if it was the stingy dojo, but Su Hong simply asked them to trust him. Seeing his serious expression, they smiled. His uncle agreed that little Hong would never lie, and they celebrated his bright future. That night, Su Hong climbed onto the roof. Under the moonlight, he reflected on his situation. The exam fees, rent, and medical expenses were settled. He laughed in relief. He checked the system interface. He survived thanks to this mysterious power. He noticed a stat called martial value. A notification stated he gained 57 martial value points for defeating a higher-level opponent. These could be used to increase vitality and skills. Su Hong tried it immediately. When he added points to vitality, scorching energy exploded inside his body. His vitality reached 90. That was already the level of a quasi-martial artist. He poured the remaining points into vitality. His body felt lighter, stronger, and more alive. Su Hong clenched his fists. Even his wounds were healed, and he felt brimming with power. He felt an urge to test his new strength. He leaped across the rooftops toward the combat power tester at the school's drill ground. He arrived at Star City No. 1 High School shortly after. The place was quiet, with a lone Tier 1 combat power tester sitting there. Su Hong gathered his vitality but decided to hold back. Using only 70% of his strength, his fist struck the machine with a sharp impact. For a split second, the punch felt incredibly heavy. Suddenly the tester sparked and died. Stunned, he worried he would have to pay for the poor quality machine and decided to leave. A voice shouted from behind, asking who was there. Su Hong bolted without explaining. A furious caretaker rushed over to the ruined machine, cursing the vandal. He assumed it was the usual troublemakers, Chun Shan and Li Duo, and swore to educate them when school started. The gymnasium at Star City No. 1 High School was packed. Students crowded every corner of the room, and Su Hong stood quietly among them. While he waited, he heard someone mention that Chun Shan had gotten beaten up. This immediately caught his attention, so he asked what had happened. A student nearby explained that Chun Shan had smashed the combat power tester in the middle of the night and refused to admit it. Because of that, the principal punished him right there. Hearing this, Su Hong felt a bit awkward. It turned out someone else had taken the blame for his mistake. At the same time, he felt relieved. If he had been caught, he never could have afforded to pay for that machine. Before he could think about it further, the announcer's voice echoed through the hall, telling everyone to be quiet. He announced that a special guest, a Tier 3 martial artist named Chan Tian, was here to teach them a C-rank martial art called the Thunder Rush Fist. He told the students to pay close attention. The gym instantly erupted with noise. Some students shouted that this was their first time seeing a Tier 3 martial artist in person. Others talked about how C-rank martial arts usually cost a fortune to learn at outside dojos. But the moment Su Hong heard the name, his eyes lit up. Thunder Rush Fist. That was the same move White Fox had used in the underground arena. One punch created the impact of 3. Its power was undeniable. Outside of school, just the registration fee to learn something like this would be huge. There was no way he was going to miss this chance. Chantian didn't waste time with small talk. He told the students he would demonstrate the technique 10 times from start to finish. How much they learned would depend entirely on them. He stepped forward, got into his stance, and began. Shouting Thunder Rush Fist, he threw a punch. The force was intense, and the sound of thunder rolled through the gym. As he demonstrated, he explained the levels. At the basic level, a punch makes 1 thunderclap. At the proficient level, it makes 3 sounds. At the micro level, it makes 5. At the mastered level, it creates 7 sounds, which was his current level. As he finished the move, 7 loud thunder sounds echoed out, making the air vibrate. After using so much energy, Chan Tian paused to catch his breath. He added that at the perfect realm, one could strike out 9 thunder sounds. However, he told them not to aim too high. If they could just grasp the basics today, that would be good enough. After a short break, Chan Tian announced the second demonstration and told everyone to try and follow along. The gym quickly filled with students shouting awkward battle cries as they tried to copy his movements. Hours passed by quickly. One by one, students began to collapse from exhaustion. Some complained that they couldn't get it at all, while others groaned about being totally drained. A few stubborn ones kept practicing, asking if anyone had found the trick, even though their bodies were giving out. One of Su Hong's friends wiped his sweat and sighed, saying that C-rank martial arts were just too hard to learn. Looking around, he realized Su Hong was gone. For a second, he wondered if Su Hong had already learned it, but then he just wondered where he went. Just then, excited laughter rang out nearby. Someone proudly announced that he had reached the basic level. The friend turned and saw Chun Shan looking very pleased with himself. A wave of jealousy hit him. No wonder everyone called Chun Shan a genius. How was he so good at this? The principal quickly stepped forward, introduced Chun Shan as the school's top genius, and asked Chan Tian if he wanted to train him. Students crowded around, calling Chun Shan a true prodigy. Chan Tian, however, didn't look impressed. He casually said this barely counted as being a genius. In other cities, this level was just average. Later, the group moved outside while continuing their conversation. Chan Tian complained to the principal that these students weren't impressive at all, making the trip feel like a waste of time. Deep down, he suspected the school focused more on students with money than talent. Still, to make himself feel better, he thought about how at least one student reached the basic level and he got paid well. He asked the principal if he really expected to find a top-tier genius here. The principal sighed, agreeing that the path of martial arts was cruel. Talent was too important. Hard work alone, without opportunity, just wasn't enough. Just as they were talking, a sudden noise echoed through the air. Both of them froze and immediately looked toward where the sound came from. 7 thunderous sounds. 7-sound thunder rush fist. Their expressions changed instantly. They couldn't believe it, asking how the school could have someone at that level. The principal was even more shocked. He said it was impossible. He had never heard of someone like that in his school. The principal then realized something else. He didn't even recognize that student. The kid hadn't paid any extra fees. Staring at his clothes, his heart skipped a beat. That uniform clearly belonged to a student. The shock hit him hard. If he had been strict about the rules, this student probably wouldn't have even been allowed in the lesson. Even Chan Tian was stunned. He muttered that he had only taught for half a day, yet someone had already reached the mastered level. The principal's mind went blank. He asked if he heard wrong. 9 sounds? Was that really 9 sounds? Chan Tian couldn't speak. He stood there silently, feeling so emotional he almost wanted to cry. The principal wasn't doing much better. He never imagined someone without money could have such terrifying talent. Seeing Chan Tian frozen in place, the principal asked what was wrong. Chan Tian finally exhaled and said he understood now. Everything suddenly made sense. Without another word, he got into his stance and threw a thunder rush fist of his own. The air exploded. 8 thunderous sounds rang out. The principal nearly jumped. 8 sounds? Chan Tian had broken through? Chan Tian stared at his own fist, excitement showing on his face. He said that seeing that student's punch gave him the inspiration he had been missing for years. Without it, he might never have broken through in his lifetime. But then reality hit him. This was not the time to celebrate. Chan Tian urgently told the principal to hurry and find that student. The principal snapped out of it and actually started running. Unfortunately, by the time they reached the spot, the student was already gone. As for Su Hong, he had already achieved his goal. While walking away, he thought about how practicing a C-rank martial art was much more exhausting than the D-rank Vajra fist. His Thunder Rush fist had already reached the perfect realm. Now, the next step was figuring out how to earn more martial value points to become a true martial artist as soon as possible. He couldn't risk life-and-death fights in the underground arena every time. If he could gain points through normal sparring, that would be much better. Not long after, he arrived at his workplace, the Raging Thunder Dojo. Inside, students were training as usual. When they saw him, someone asked why he came in today. Su Hong casually replied that he wasn't busy and just came by to practice. Just then, a loud thud echoed across the hall. A student was sent crashing to the floor. Standing over him, another guy sneered. He said that if someone dared to claim his teacher taught poorly, they should first admit they were just bad at learning instead of making excuses. Su Hong glanced over and asked what was happening. His friend explained that since Su Hong hadn't been around lately, he wouldn't know. That student's teacher was a new instructor who was very strong, but he looked down on ordinary people and taught in a very lazy way. On top of that, his disciple, a guy named Li Yen, was also extremely strong. Right as they were talking, another student was knocked down. Li Yen looked at him and sneered, saying he shouldn't dare to challenge him with such a weak level. Before things could get worse, Su Hong stepped in and grabbed Li Yan's wrist, telling him that was enough. Li Yan immediately glared at him, asking who he was and telling him to let go. He said if Su Hong had the guts, they could settle it properly in the arena one-on-one. Su Hong didn't back down and calmly agreed. At that moment, a voice interrupted, asking what the noise was about and announcing that class was starting. Li Yan pulled his hand back and sneered, telling Su Hong he was lucky this time. Watching him leave, Su Hong thought that this guy was way too arrogant. Soon after, the instructor spoke up. He announced that today was the last day he would teach the Raging Sea Spear technique. As usual, he would only demonstrate it once. As he took his stance, it was clear the instructor didn't believe anyone could learn it from just one demonstration. Still, Su Hong watched with intense focus. For him, once was enough. His eyes followed every movement as the spear swept through the air. When the demonstration ended, the instructor turned to leave, saying that how much they learned was up to them. Complaints immediately broke out. Some students called the one-time demonstration a scam. Others complained that those in the back row couldn't even see clearly. Su Hong, however, had already understood the essence of it. The spear moved like a dragon crashing into the sea, its power rolling forward like endless waves. Picking up a spear himself, he began to move, perfectly copying what he had just seen. For a moment, everyone fell silent. Then, the noise erupted. People stared in disbelief, shouting that Su Hong had actually learned it. Others muttered that this was the first time they'd seen such a prodigy, while some bitterly wondered if they were just too stupid to understand it. Drawn by the noise, Li Yan returned and asked who had supposedly learned the technique. He scoffed at the idea. Then he saw Su Hong. Watching Su Hong's spear flow smoothly, Li Yan's eyes narrowed. It really did look like he had understood it. He felt a spark of interest. Testing someone like this would be fun. Stepping forward, Li Yan called out to him, saying he would give him a few pointers on his spear technique. Li Yan grabbed his spear, twirled it, and pointed the tip at Su Hong, signaling him to come on. He repeated that he would teach him a lesson. Su Hong simply agreed. One of the students hurriedly tried to stop him. He warned that even though Li Yan was a bad person, he was actually very strong, so Su Hong shouldn't be impulsive. Su Hong just smiled and told him not to worry. He stepped forward with his spear and got into position. Facing Li Yan, he politely said he looked forward to his guidance. That sentence completely set Li Yan off. He snapped that Su Hong was being arrogant and declared that he would show him the Raging Sea Spear technique at the micro level. Su Hong remained calm. As he moved his spear, he quietly controlled his power, deliberately suppressing it. Proficient level. He didn't want to reveal everything. He only wanted the guy in front of him to see just how ridiculous he was acting. The moment Su Hong's spear moved, Li Yan froze. That flow, that momentum, it was unmistakable. Proficient level Raging Sea Spear technique. No matter how hard he tried to deny it, the reality right in front of him wouldn't change. Su Hong reached the proficient level with his Raging Sea Spear technique. His movements flowed just like crashing waves. When he unleashed the attack, his opponent just froze. He couldn't trust his own eyes. Su Hong was just a martial apprentice, not even a real martial artist yet. But somehow, he had mastered the Raging Sea Spear to the proficient level. That was something even veterans struggled to do. But it was happening right in front of him. A notification popped up for Su Hong. Defeated a higher level opponent, martial value plus 35. It worked. Even normal sparring gave him points. He didn't have to risk death every time. He could get stronger just by fighting smart. Meanwhile, the opponent was panicking inside. This is impossible. Totally impossible. I trained for years and he did this so fast? Was all my hard work for nothing? He felt completely crushed. Before things got worse, Su Hong pulled back his spear. That's enough, he said calmly. Just then, the instructor showed up. He saw what happened and immediately stepped in to scold his student. The guy tried to argue, but the instructor slapped him hard across the face. If you can't handle losing, he shouted, you aren't a real martial artist. The crowd loved it. That guy was always stuck up, so seeing him get humbled felt great. The instructor turned to look at Su Hong, amazed. Su Hong only showed the move once, but he already mastered it. Even the geniuses in the capital couldn't do that. Your talent is scary, the instructor said. My student is arrogant, but meeting you is good for him. He bowed slightly. Little brother, I failed to teach him manners. Please forgive us. Su Hong was surprised. He didn't expect the man's attitude to change so fast. This guy changes faces faster than flipping a book page, he thought. Leaving the training grounds, he felt tired, but it was a good tired. He got a lot done today. He mastered the Thunder Rush Fist and the Raging Sea Spear. Plus, he earned a ton of martial value. Walking through his high school campus, he thought about his next steps. The entrance exam was coming up fast. Rich kids were already buying high-grade alloy weapons. To compete, he needed one too. He could still feel the spear in his hands. I'll stick with the spear, he decided. He needed to get a real alloy spear and fast, but he was broke. He barely had enough for his aunt's medical bills, let alone a weapon that cost 70,000. But he wouldn't give up. There had to be a way. Suddenly, an announcement played across the city. Ferocious beasts were attacking the wilderness. The city lord was hiring martial artists to hunt them for big rewards. Su-hong knew instantly this was his chance. When he got home later, his aunt was busy working, just like always. She told him not to push himself too hard since he already gave them money. His uncle insisted on working, saying he wouldn't rely on Su-hong as long as he could still move. They greeted him warmly when he walked in. He told them to rest and let him take care of things. He explained that he could make money now. His uncle laughed. He said that sounded nice, but he couldn't just sit around doing nothing. He wanted to keep earning money for their daily needs. His aunt smiled too. She said they needed to save up so Su-hong could focus on his training. Hearing that made Su-hong's chest ache. They had lived simply for so long. Unless he made enough money to secure their future, they would never stop working so hard. That night on the rooftop, he opened his status panel. The wilderness was dangerous, so he needed to be stronger. He dumped all his remaining martial value into his vitality stats. Power surged through him. His blood roared and his muscles tightened. The number climbed until it hit 95.2. He felt like a beast ready to strike. He was now just one tiny step away from being a real martial artist. 2 days later, late at night, he lay on the gym floor, totally drained. But his eyes were shining. He had perfected all his skills: Thunder Rush Fist, Raging Sea Spear, Vajra Fist, and Floating Light Palm. He exhaled deeply. 2 days of non-stop training had paid off. Now it was time to go. The next morning, he headed to the Star City martial artist base. When he got there, he stopped, amazed. He had seen it on TV, but being there was different. The place was packed with strong martial artists. He checked the bounty board. Non-ranked beasts were worth 300 coins. Tier 1 early stage were 1,000. Mid-stage were 3,000, and late stage were 5,000. Su-hong frowned at the rules. They only accepted the left ear as proof for the reward. It seemed pretty old-fashioned. Nearby, a man dropped a bloody sack on the counter. "Miss, count these up for me," he said. The bag was full of ears. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the door. "Move it!" someone shouted. "Young Master Yi is here." The crowd moved aside. Su-hong saw an arrogant-looking guy walking in. He looked familiar. Su-hong frowned. That vibe. It reminded him of someone. People whispered around him. If his uncle wasn't the boss, he'd be dead by now. "I heard he got beat up recently." "Serves him right." "Really? No wonder he's been hiding." Su-hong listened, then looked up. Their eyes met for a second. They recognized each other. The air got tense. Su-hong realized something. The beasts weren't the only danger out here. People were dangerous too. He told himself to stay on guard. As he left, a stranger commented on how young he looked. "First time going out alone?" the man asked. Su-hong just nodded and kept walking. Behind him, the man shook his head. "Just another kid rushing to die," he muttered. Su-hong stepped into the wilderness and looked around. The forest was quiet and peaceful, but he stayed alert. He couldn't go back empty-handed. 2 hours later, he was deep in the woods. He took a sip of water, frowning. No beasts anywhere. Maybe the outer area had already been hunted clean. He decided to move faster and go even deeper. Suddenly, his face changed. A massive shape blocked his path. It was huge and scary, exactly like in the books. A ferocious beast. Su-hong knew what it was immediately. An azure moonwolf, a Tier 1 early-stage beast. It stared at him with red eyes, showing its teeth and growling. It was definitely hungry. The wolf crouched, ready to jump. Su-hong took a deep breath and got ready. It was time to fight. As the wolf lunged at him with bared claws, Su-hong reacted in a split second. He sidestepped the attack and drove a lightning-charged punch straight into its gut. The impact sent the beast flying, its massive body slamming into a tree with a heavy thud. The wolf slumped to the ground, paralyzed. Su-hong stood over it, sparks of electricity still crackling around his fists. Looking at his trembling hands, he felt the power surging through him. Fighting real ferocious beasts was way more thrilling than he had imagined. Taking down a Tier 1 early-stage beast in one hit got his blood pumping. If this was so easy, he wondered how he would handle a mid-stage beast. Just then, he sensed movement. A massive figure emerged from the shadows, a low growl vibrating through the forest. It was a raging black bear, a Tier 1 mid-stage beast. It charged immediately, thinking it had found an easy snack. But before it could strike, a blur of motion hit it head-on. A heavy, lightning-infused fist slammed into the bear, knocking it straight to the ground. Su-hong stood his ground, calm. He had dropped the beast with his own strength. Exhaling slowly, he realized how powerful he had become. Unless he ran into a Tier 2 beast, he was safe here. That was another 3,000 in bounty secured. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. His accumulated martial value was finally enough to break through and become a martial artist. Su Hong's heart raced. He was at the threshold, but before he could celebrate, a terrifying roar shook the forest. The pressure was intense, making his skin crawl. His expression darkened instantly. He turned toward the noise, narrowing his eyes. Whatever made that sound was much stronger than anything he'd faced yet. Curiosity and caution fought in his mind, but curiosity won. He moved quietly toward the roar. Reaching a high rock formation, he climbed up to get a better view. What he saw made him hold his breath. A colossal black-scaled serpent was coiled among the trees. It was a Tier 1 late-stage beast, a black jade python. Its size was massive, and its aura was terrifying. A group of people was fighting it nearby, but they were clearly losing. One by one, they were tossed aside, completely overpowered. Su Hong watched, heart pounding. This was a whole different level. Suddenly his instincts screamed danger. He leaped aside just in time. The beast's spiked tail slammed down exactly where he had been standing, cracking the ground. The creature wasn't satisfied. It was furious that its prey had dodged. Su Hong barely landed before he had to jump again, narrowly dodging a sweeping strike. Even so, the attack was so fast it grazed him, sending a jolt of pain through his body. He realized just how fast this thing really was. Regaining his balance, he noticed an injured fighter nearby, unable to move. Ignoring his own pain, Su Hong grabbed the fallen fighter's weapon. Muttering that he'd borrow it for a second, he turned back to the beast. The python reared up, jaws wide open, ready to strike again. Su Hong barely dodged, rolling away just in the nick of time. Scrambling to his feet, his mind raced. A Tier 1 late-stage beast usually took a whole team to defeat. Yet here he was, fighting one head-on. It was because his skills were now perfected. Using his void step, he darted around, dodging attacks with blinding speed. Seeing an opening, he countered, driving the spear forward with the raging sea spear technique. The tip pierced the beast's scales, making it roar in fury. The python thrashed violently, enraged by the pain. Su Hong didn't stop. He struck again, fluid and precise, driving the monster into a frenzy. Still, he knew the truth. With a body that huge, landing a killing blow wouldn't be easy. The size difference made hitting a vital spot incredibly hard. He reminded himself to stay patient. He had to weaken it first and wait for the right moment. Just then, the beast lashed out again, its massive body crashing toward him with overwhelming force. Su Hong unleashed a perfect thunderous fist. The explosive force met the beast head-on, stopping it in its tracks. A shockwave rippled through the air as both of them staggered back. Su Hong knew he couldn't stay close after landing a hit. He had to pull back immediately and look for another opening. One mistake meant death against a creature like this. His breathing was getting heavier. This fighting style was exhausting, but it was his only safe option. However, the python was tired too. Its movements were slowing down. The beast was nearing its limit. Just a little more, he thought. If I keep this up, I can win. He steadied himself for the next round, eyes locked on the beast. Suddenly a cold chill ran down his spine. Something was wrong. Before he could react, a violent force slammed into him from the side. He flew through the air, crashing hard against the ground. Gasping for breath, he forced himself to roll over, barely blocking a follow-up attack. The impact rattled his bones. He had been ambushed. Struggling to his feet, he shouted, "Who's there?" Several figures stepped from the shadows. One laughed loudly, mocking him. "How's it feel to be caught off guard? Maybe you should just hand over the black jade python to us." Su Hong's eyes narrowed as he recognized the speaker. His heart sank. Real trouble had arrived. Su Hong found himself in a tight spot as he got surrounded by a large group of goons who had a bad history with him. The leader mocked him, saying that when he saw Su Hong leaving the city alone, he was sure Su Hong would die out here. He admitted he didn't expect Su Hong to have such good luck. Not only had Su Hong survived, but he even managed to loot a heavily injured black jade giant python. The leader looked at the nearby python, which was barely hanging on to life, and felt like this was a perfect opportunity for him to take everything. Su Hong realized that since the man said he picked up the python, they must have just arrived. He noted that all 5 of them were martial artists. With the numbers against him, he knew he couldn't fight them all head-on. Suddenly, one of the thugs charged at him, fist raised. He shouted that young Master Yi wanted this python and asked why Su Hong hadn't run away yet. Su Hong got annoyed by the disrespect and channeled a massive amount of aura into his hand. He told them that the only reason he was pushed back earlier was because of a sneak attack, asking if they seriously thought he couldn't beat them. Su Hong threw a punch that collided directly with the enemy's fist, releasing a shockwave of energy. The goon was stunned by the sudden force and realized just how terrifying Su Hong's power actually was. Su Hong didn't stop there. He followed through with a punch straight to the guy's face, sending him flying back toward the rest of the group. The leader recognized the move immediately. It was the powerful Vajra fist. He realized this really was the person known as Minotaur. The leader was genuinely impressed by the display of strength. However, Su Hong recognized the leader as well. It was White Fox. White Fox claimed that Su Hong humiliated him in front of a crowd, something no one had ever done to him before. Furious at the memory, White Fox decided he won't let this slide. He ordered his men to take Su Hong down immediately. The group rushed forward with their weapons drawn. Su Hong quickly grabbed his spear and dashed into the wild to create distance. White Fox refused to let him escape and commanded everyone to chase him, leading the pack as they sprinted after Su Hong. They scoured the wilderness, checking every possible hiding spot. One goon complained that they couldn't find him, while another warned that the dense woods ahead were perfect for an ambush, telling everyone to stay alert. One of them remained cocky, though. He said that with so many people on their side, there was no reason to be afraid of just one guy. But in an instant, a figure flashed behind him at blinding speed. The goon spun around, and standing right there was Su Hong. Su Hong landed a crushing punch, sending the man flying through the air until he landed right in front of his leader. That guy was definitely knocked out cold. The leader was shocked, wondering how Su Hong could possibly move that fast. White Fox couldn't believe his eyes. After seeing that brutal attack, the rest of the group quickly formed a defensive circle, terrified of being next. One goon identified the move as the Nine Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, noting that even Tier 3 martial artists struggled to perfect it. White Fox got frustrated and yelled at them to shut up. Internally, he was panicking, thinking that mastering both the Vajra Fist and Thunder Rush Fist should be impossible. He was starting to feel true fear. His fear would have only grown if he knew that Su Hong was currently hiding in a tree above, watching their every move. To Su Hong, they looked like rats being hunted by a cat. He thought that if he hadn't wasted so much energy fighting the python earlier, he would have crushed them head-on. He threw his spear to create a distraction, planning to pick them off one by one. The spear slammed into the ground nearby, startling the whole group. While they were distracted by the spear, Su Hong dropped down, grabbed one of the goons, and attacked. After the instant strike, he vanished back into the shadows. The remaining goons were now completely terrified. They felt like even sticking together won't save them against someone this intense. They begged young Master Yi to leave, saying the kid was too strong, but the leader refused to listen. White Fox's ego wouldn't let him run. He wanted to prove his power, even though he was scared deep down. He declared that he had to kill Su Hong today. Meanwhile, Su Hong was darting around them at such high speeds that they could barely track him. Suddenly, while White Fox was still talking, Su Hong rushed past. Before the leader could react, another goon was grabbed and slammed into the ground. Just like before, Su Hong disappeared immediately after the attack. White Fox's panic turned into frustration. He couldn't understand how this kid became so much stronger in just a few days. It felt unreal. Then, a blur rushed right behind him. White Fox whipped around but saw nothing. He cursed, refusing to believe Su Hong could catch him off guard. But the moment he turned back around, Su Hong appeared right in front of him, ready to strike. White Fox reacted instantly, spinning around and shouting that he hadn't been beaten yet. He gathered magic aura into his hand and struck, shouting that this was the void-breaking finger. Su Hong dodged the attack with a smooth movement. The tree behind him took the hit instead. The force of White Fox's attack was immense, completely shattering the tree trunk. White Fox didn't let up. Seeing Su Hong dodge, he fired beam after beam, repeatedly shouting the name of his attack. No matter how many times he fired, Su Hong was too fast and avoided every shot. While dodging, Su Hong analyzed the power, thinking the skill must be at least B rank. He found it interesting and decided he might want to learn it later. White Fox, however, was losing his mind. His finger glowed with blue aura as he screamed that Su Hong had made a permanent enemy. He threatened that once he got back, he would wipe out Su Hong's entire family. The moment Su Hong heard the threat against his family, something snapped inside him. Threatening his family was completely unacceptable. Filled with rage, he stopped dodging and rushed straight toward White Fox. White Fox tried to intimidate him by bragging about his background, mentioning that his uncle was a supervisor at the martial artist base, and his father was a VIP. Before he could finish his sentence, Su Hong was already right in front of him, radiating a terrifying pressure. Su Hong stayed silent at first, letting his power speak for itself. As he charged a massive punch, he finally spoke, telling White Fox that he looked better when he was acting arrogant. He said this begging didn't suit him, but he was going to enjoy ending this. Su Hong punched White Fox squarely in the face, sending him launching backward. The power behind the blow was overwhelming. White Fox was sent flying deep into the forest, crashing through trees before hitting the ground hard. Dust and smoke filled the air from the impact. When the dust settled, Su Hong walked over with a furious expression, a red aura coating his body. He told White Fox that he should never have used his family as a threat. Lying on the ground, broken and bleeding, White Fox asked in disbelief why Su Hong was so strong. He insisted this was impossible since Su Hong wasn't even supposed to be a martial artist yet. Suddenly, the giant python behind him heard the noise and locked its eyes on White Fox. White Fox felt a chill run down his spine. He looked back just as the python swung its massive tail and struck with its jaws wide open. With White Fox taken out, the python turned its full attention to Su Hong. Su Hong realized that fighting the goons had taken too long, giving the giant python time to recover its stamina. Now, he had to fight the beast again. But this time, he was the one running low on energy. The group of martial artists was fuming after their humiliating defeat. One of them cursed, calling the kid who beat them way too weird. Another looked around, asking where young Master Yi was, hoping he had already finished the kid off. Just then, they spotted the same young man who had defeated them, and he was rushing straight toward them again. Thinking he was back for another round, they immediately braced for a fight. "The brat finally shows his face," one of them shouted, while another vowed not to spare him this time. However, Su Hong had no interest in fighting them. He kept running, calmly telling them to get out of his way. A moment later, they saw exactly why he was running. A massive, enraged giant python was hot on his heels. The sight left them all speechless with terror. The python lunged at Su Hong, but with his spear in hand, he deftly leaped aside, dodging the deadly strike. Unfortunately, one of the other martial artists wasn't as quick. The python snatched him up instead. A system notification popped up for Su Hong. Opponent martial artist indirectly taken down. +30, martial value. The python struck again, catching another man who failed to escape. A second notification appeared with the same message, granting Su Hong another 30 martial value. Su Hong was surprised, realizing he could gain points even when he wasn't the one dealing the final blow. The python immediately turned its attention back to Su Hong, lashing out with its powerful tail. He leaped over the attack, continuing to evade the beast's clever, full-body strikes. As he ran and dodged, Su Hong realized that with all the points he had accumulated, he finally had enough martial value to break through and become a true martial artist. Weaving through the trees, Su Hong easily outmaneuvered the increasingly frustrated python. As he ran, he scanned the area, thinking he just needed to find a safe place to initiate his breakthrough. Just then, he spotted something up ahead. A small cave. It was the perfect shelter he had been looking for. A place where he could be safe from the python and focus on his advancement. Perfect, he thought, and immediately made a dash for the cave's entrance. The python, still in hot pursuit, lunged one last time, but Su Hong dived into the safety of the cave just in the nick of time. The python tried to follow him in, but its massive body was too large for the opening, and it got stuck at the entrance. Trapped and enraged, all the python could do was roar in frustration. Inside, Su Hong calmly turned his attention to his system. He pulled up his status window. It showed his vitality at 96, spirit at 23, and physique as mortal body, 3%. All his skills, Raging Sea Spear Technique, Thunder Rush Fist, Vajra Fist, Floating Light Palm, and Void Step, were at the perfect level. Most importantly, his martial value was at a solid 504. Without wasting a second, he began pouring all his points into his stats, mentally urging the system to go faster. His goal was to gain as much power as possible in the shortest amount of time. He focused on his vitality, and as the points flowed in, he felt an intense heat spread through his body, as if magma were flowing through his veins. In a matter of moments, his vitality hit 100. Outside the cave, even the trapped python seemed to sense a terrifying change in the air. A new notification appeared. Breakthrough successful. Tier 1 martial artist. Su Hong felt a surge of power and thought to himself, "I've finally become a real martial artist." He clenched his fist, feeling a powerful aura envelop him. Looking at the struggling python, he declared, "Now, it's my turn." For the first time, the python felt genuine fear. It desperately tried to pull its body out of the cave entrance, wanting only to escape, but Su Hong gave it no such chance. He channeled his newfound strength into an incredibly powerful punch. Still wedged in the entrance, the python had no way to dodge the attack. The punch connected with tremendous force, sending the massive beast flying backward with a pained roar. The sheer power behind the blow was unbelievable, a stark contrast to the boy it had just been chasing. But Su Hong wasn't done yet. Before the python could even recover, he was on the move. He leaped into the air, landing on the beast's massive body. With a powerful roar of his own, he unleashed a flurry of Vajra Fist attacks. Each punch landed with devastating force, hammering the giant snake into the ground. The ground cracked and shattered under the repeated impacts. The python thrashed wildly, but it was completely overwhelmed by the relentless assault. Finally, with one last earth-shattering blow, the python went still. Dust and smoke filled the air from the sheer force of the battle. When it finally settled, Su Hong was standing triumphantly on the now-defeated giant python. He got a notification for +92 martial value. Su Hong reflected that while the python was already injured, his new strength allowed him to face it head-on, something that would have been impossible just moments ago. His thoughts then turned to the reward. Usually you needed to cut off a beast's left ear as proof of the kill, but snakes didn't have ears. He was momentarily stumped on what to do. He decided to worry about it later, and started heading back. The forest was now eerily quiet, the only evidence of the chaotic chase being the trail of destruction left in its wake. As he walked, he came across the bodies of the men who had tried to ambush him. Seeing their state, likely other victims of the python, Su Hong commented that they got off easy. His mind then turned to the high-level martial technique their leader had used. His search paid off. He found a manual on Yi Feng's body. "Void-breaking finger," he read, a look of interest on his face. "This is getting good." Instead of leaving immediately, he decided to stay near the cave. He started a fire and settled down next to the massive python carcass to study his new prize. He began studying the manual and, with his enhanced abilities, quickly memorized the entire introductory method for the void-breaking finger. Now all that was left was to use his system to master it in record time. As he began his training through the system, a clone of himself materialized in front of him, ready for a fight. The clone didn't hold back, immediately attacking him with the void-breaking finger over and over. By sparring with the clone, Su Hong's mastery of the technique skyrocketed, climbing rapidly past 51%, 63%, 77%, and then 93%. Before long, a notification confirmed that his void-breaking finger had reached the basic realm, and his progress toward the next level began. The training left Su Hong completely exhausted. He coughed, noting that as a B-rank skill, even reaching the basic realm put immense strain on his body. The system then prompted him to find a real monster to test his new power. 3 days later, Su Hong stood before a new challenge, a massive, roaring bear-like monster. He put his new skill to the test, using the void-breaking finger to fight the beast head-on, and eventually, he emerged victorious. After the tough battle, Su Hong felt he had finally mastered the skill. "This power is definitely worthy of a B-rank martial skill," he said with satisfaction. A system notification confirmed that void-breaking finger had reached the perfect level. With his new power secured, Su Hong decided it was finally time to head back. Back at the martial artist base, a large crowd was gathered around the mission counter, buzzing with excitement. Someone in the crowd exclaimed in shock, "230,000!" Another person remarked that the Thunder Squad must be incredibly skilled to have killed so many ferocious beasts. A third added that a haul like that was equal to several months of hard work for most people. Someone else pointed out the quality of the kills, noting that they were all Tier 1 beasts, with not a single non-ranked one among them, and even a few high-stage monsters. Just as the crowd was marveling at the Thunder Squad's score, the receptionist turned to Su Hong's pile of trophies. Her eyes went wide with shock as she announced his results. 72 Tier 1 initial stage beasts, 83 middle stage, 17 high stage, for a total reward of 406,000 Blue Star coins. Seeing the reaction, Su Hong started to regret his decision. He thought to himself that he might have overdone it. A haul this large was far too conspicuous. He could only hope it didn't attract unwanted trouble. The crowd erupted. The number was so staggering that people couldn't believe what they were hearing. As Su Hong made his way through the stunned crowd, a sudden commotion broke out at the base entrance. Shouts rang out, with people wondering how the base could possibly be under attack with so many high-level martial artists present. The commotion wasn't from an attack, but from the forceful arrival of an important figure. The crowd parted to reveal a man striding through with a group of guards. It was Yi Qi, the man in charge of the base and Yi Feng's uncle. With a grim expression, he ordered his men to blockade the entire base. "Don't let a single fly escape," he commanded. His guards immediately moved to carry out the order. Another supervisor hurried over, asking Yi Qi what was going on. Yi Qi's voice was cold as he replied, "My nephew, Yi Feng, and the 4 martial artists with him are all dead." A shocked silence fell over the crowd. People began to whisper in disbelief that young Master Yi Feng and his entire group were wiped out. However, not everyone was sad. One person muttered that it was a good kill, since Yi Feng had robbed nearly everyone at the base. Another added that if it weren't for his powerful uncle, someone would have dealt with him long ago. Ignoring the whispers, Yi Qi announced the real reason for the lockdown. A valuable B-rank martial skill was missing from Yi Feng's body. He ordered a search of every martial artist in the base, declaring that no one leaves until they were cleared of suspicion. Hearing this, Su Hong felt a moment of relief. He thought that the state of the bodies clearly pointed to the giant python as the killer, so the deaths shouldn't be traced back to him. However, as the search progressed, he started to feel uneasy. He noticed people glancing in his direction and whispering among themselves, and he began to suspect this search might be targeting him specifically. His fears were confirmed when Yi Qi, flanked by his guards, walked directly toward him. On the surface, Yi Qi's tone was polite. "I heard you killed over 400,000 worth of ferocious beasts all by yourself," he said, praising Su Hong's skills. But his calm words were betrayed by the menacing red aura flaring around him, making it clear that he was anything but pleased. It seemed he already suspected something. Su Hong kept a calm look on his face, but inside he knew the truth. He was much stronger now. Deep down, he even started to wonder if he could actually defeat this man if things really turned sour. The White Fox's father spoke up first. He said he heard that Su Hong took down ferocious beasts worth 400,000 credits all on his own, admitting that was pretty impressive for a student. However, the woman standing next to him wasn't buying it. She argued that Su Hong looked like a rank 1 early-stage fighter at best, so there was no way he could kill that many beasts. She accused him of stealing from young Master Ye's pack and immediately ordered her men to search him. As soon as the order left her mouth, 2 large men with flames burning in their hands started walking toward Su Hong. One of them gave him a sharp warning: "Do not resist, or this would get ugly." But in the blink of an eye, the situation flipped. One of the men suddenly found a spear tip pointed right at his face. The guard froze and asked what Su Hong thought he was doing. Su Hong calmly said it was nothing, keeping the spear steady. The man was completely shocked because he didn't even see Su Hong draw the weapon. It was just too fast. Su Hong then announced that he was a student of Star City High No. 1. He looked at them and asked if they really wanted to force a search on a student from that school. Hearing the school's name, the White Fox's father hesitated. He knew the principal of High School No. 1 was famous for being extremely protective of his students. That was not a person he wanted to offend over a small issue. Ye Qi still thought the whole thing smelled fishy. If this kid really hunted all those beasts, he was a genius. But if they were wrong and they offended a genius student, it wouldn't be worth the trouble. He signaled his men to stop and stepped forward himself. He explained that his nephew was attacked and a secret family technique was stolen, so he had no choice but to find the culprit. He added that he hoped Su Hong would cooperate. Su Hong simply replied that he just hoped they weren't accusing the wrong person. Ye Qi then offered 10,000 credits as payment for the trouble of searching him and asked if that sounded fair. Su Hong countered immediately, asking for 30,000. In his head, he knew Yifeng was technically killed by the giant python. As long as they didn't find the stolen technique on him, they couldn't prove anything. Ye Qi agreed to the price. Su Hong opened his arms and let them search him. While the men checked his pockets, the woman dug through his bag. Su Hong told them to look closely because he didn't want any false rumors following him later. When they finished, the men reported that they found absolutely nothing. Ye Qi nodded, told them to pay Su Hong the 30,000 credits, and let him leave. Walking away, Su Hong thought to himself that it was a good thing he cleaned up the scene properly. If he hadn't, he would have been in serious trouble today. Ye Qi turned to the crowd and yelled for the search to continue, stating that no one left until the thief was found. Meanwhile, Su Hong planned his next move. He wanted to shower and change, then head straight to the Martial Artist Association to sign up for the assessment. He needed to get a proper guidance technique as soon as possible. A little later, Su Hong was resting at the underground hotel in the martial artist base. He opened his system interface and checked his points. He was surprised to see he had 534 martial points. He realized he was so busy training the world-shattering finger and hunting beasts that he forgot to spend them. His stats looked good. Vitality was over 103, spirit was at 23, and his physique, the mortal frame, was at 6%. All his skills, void-shattering finger, raging sea spear technique, and void step, were perfected. Looking at the numbers, Su Hong noted that rank 1 early stage needed 100 vitality, but mid-stage needed 200. He did the math and realized that even if he used all his points on vitality, he would still be short about 40 points for mid-stage. He decided to look at spirit and mortal frame instead, to see what upgrading those would do. His spirit was at 23 and mortal frame was at 6%. Since he had points to spare, he decided to test it out. He upgraded his spirit, watching it go up by 0.1 at a time. After spending some points, he admitted he didn't really feel any different. Next, he tried increasing his mortal frame by 0.1 at a time. This time, the result was instant. He felt a clear boost in physical strength immediately, so he decided to keep adding points there. Watching his martial points drop quickly, he decided to stop upgrading the mortal frame for now. He switched gears and dumped 200 martial points into his vitality instead. After the changes, his mortal frame was sitting at 36.1%. He decided to put whatever points were left into his spirit. The moment he finished, a massive wave of red energy exploded around him. He felt an endless amount of power rising up from inside his body. After a few moments, the energy faded and his body slowly returned to its normal state. He let out a long breath, relieved to be back to normal size. He thought it would have been really awkward to explain to people why he suddenly turned into a giant muscle man. An hour later, Su-hong arrived at the Star City Martial Artist Association, a huge building surrounded by skyscrapers. He walked up to the front desk and told the receptionist he was there for the assessment. The woman nodded and said a staff member would guide him to the testing area soon. As he followed a staff member down the hall, she commented on how young he looked and asked if it was his first time. She explained the rules. To pass as a rank 1 martial artist, he needed at least 100 vitality and a combat power over 1,000. She wished him luck, and Su-hong thanked her politely. Nearby, people in the waiting area started whispering. One guy pointed out that the kid came alone, without a master or teacher. Another guessed that since he was so young, he was probably just here to see what the test was like, not to actually pass. Suddenly the room got loud as a commotion broke out near the testing machines. A machine announced that a guy named Panjia had 102 vitality, but his combat power was only 992. That meant he failed. Panjia cursed loudly, frustrated that he missed the mark by such a tiny amount. Su-hong and the staff member walked into the testing zone. Just then, another announcement came through. Li Ming had a vitality of 105 and had passed. The system told him to move on to the combat power test. Li Ming stepped up to the punching machine, wound up, and threw a heavy punch. The screen flashed the number 1763. He passed easily. Someone in the crowd gasped, noting that 1763 was almost the power level of a rank 1 mid-stage fighter. Another person asked if this was the disciple of Jiang Ming from the Raging Thunder Dojo. A bystander confirmed it, saying it made sense that he was a genius since he used the famous thunderclap fist. Su-hong heard the name and scratched his head. He thought Jiang Ming's disciple was named Li Yan. He wondered just how many students that guy actually had. Li Ming walked back from the machine and looked at Su-hong, telling him he was up next. As Su-hong stepped forward, Li Ming watched him. He figured that since Su-hong was taking the test at such a young age, he must be a genius too. He admitted Su-hong was rare, but he doubted the kid could compare to him. Suddenly the crowd screamed in shock. People were yelling, asking if the machine was broken because they couldn't believe the number they were seeing. Even the arrogant Li Ming spun around in surprise. The staff member announced that Su-hong's vitality was 123. He passed the first round easily. Li Ming muttered that it had to be impossible. He tried to calm himself down, thinking that vitality wasn't the only thing that mattered. Combat power was the real test. He told himself he could still be the number 1 student here. The officer called for the combat power test to start, and Su-hong was guided over to the punching machine. Standing in front of the target, Su-hong thought about his stats. He was already a martial artist and had upgraded his physique, so his raw strength was way higher than before. He considered using just 40% of his power, thinking that should be enough to pass. But then he worried. If he held back too much and failed the 1,000-point requirement, he would look stupid. To be safe, he decided to use 50%. He threw the punch with terrifying speed and force. Even at half strength, the power was too much. The punching machine was blasted straight off its mount, flew into the wall, and smashed into pieces. The destruction was total, and the room went silent. Everyone was staring with their mouths open. Li Ming looked terrified, realizing Su-hong just destroyed the tester with one hit. The silence broke into loud shouting as Li Ming realized the scariest part. Su-hong didn't even use a martial arts technique. That was just raw power. Someone in the crowd pointed out that a rank 1 high-stage fighter usually had around 3,000 combat power. This result was completely off the charts. Another person grabbed a teacher's arm and yelled that it was that kid again, calling him an absolute monster. The teacher nodded, saying that explained everything. Meanwhile, in a high-up office, a woman was sitting at her desk. This was Wu Lingxian, the president of the Star City Martial Arts Association. She was venting about the neighboring Yang City branch, complaining that they wouldn't stop bragging about their new genius. She worried that if Star City didn't find some talent soon, she might actually lose her job. Suddenly, a man burst into her office, screaming that a monster had appeared in the assessment hall. Wu Lingxian glared at him for yelling, clearly startled. The man quickly explained, "A rank 1. Early-stage kid just sent the testing machine flying with raw physical strength, hitting a combat power of 3,000. Wu Lingxian paused, finding it hard to believe. But then she realized, this might be the exact miracle she had been waiting for. The central hall of the Martial Artist Association was packed with activity. People were moving everywhere, some were chatting, some were standing guard, and others were helping injured fighters walk, while many just looked around in awe. 2 men were chatting nearby. One told Brother Su-hong that he'd take him to the second floor to register his martial artist identity first, and after that, they could go collect his allowance. Su-hong politely thanked him for the help. Suddenly, someone interrupted, stating that Su-hong was done with the basics, and that she would handle him personally. The guide was shocked, realizing it was the president herself. He couldn't believe she would come down to handle this in person. To her, this matter was crucial, and she didn't want any mistakes. She turned her gaze to the young man and confirmed that he must be Su Hong. She introduced herself as Wu Lingxian, the president of the Star City branch of the Martial Dao Association, and simply told him to follow her. Su Hong agreed, addressing her as president. Internally, he was surprised. He recalled rumors that the president was a powerful Tier 8 Rank 5 martial artist, but she looked different from what he had imagined. Moments later, inside the president's private office, the two of them sat down to have a serious talk. Wu Lingxian noted that Su Hong was a student at Star City No. 1 High School. She mentioned that the principal, Li Changshan, had complained to her earlier. He was upset that the school had only produced 2 ordinary Tier 1 martial artists this year, completely missing a hidden genius like Su Hong. Su Hong felt a bit nervous. He asked why she had brought him to her office, explaining that he had only come here to register, get his allowance, and pick up a basic guidance technique. Wu Lingxian waved her hand, telling him to relax. She explained that her subordinates were already processing his ID and money. As for the guidance technique, she intended to teach him personally. She stood up and asked him directly, how much did he actually understand about guidance techniques? Su Hong thought for a moment. He recited the textbook definition. The heaven and earth spiritual key had attributes, and a guidance technique was a method to absorb that energy to strengthen the body. He added that different attributes required specific techniques to absorb them. The president extended her hand, conjuring a small flame. She explained that the textbook wasn't wrong, but guidance techniques were more than just simple cultivation methods. She revealed that her heavenly flame guidance technique absorbed fire attribute energy. While it strengthened her body, it also infused her attacks with deadly firepower. She added that mastering external attacks could increase range. However, she noted that for a Tier 1 martial artist, just carrying a trace of the element was impressive. Wrapping an entire fist in it was nearly impossible for beginners. Su Hong was surprised that these techniques could be used for attacking. He admitted he thought they were only for absorbing energy to level up, as the textbooks had never mentioned combat applications. The president continued her lesson. The spiritual key had 7 attributes: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, and wind. While each had pros and cons, in terms of pure destruction, thunder was first, metal was second, and fire was third. However, you couldn't just pick any element. It depended on your natural compatibility. Su Hong nodded, realizing now that a martial artist was limited by their own body's affinity. The president agreed and pulled out a crystal ball to test his compatibility. She explained that the more it glowed, the higher the affinity. Ordinary martial artists usually only had around 20 to 30%. She mentioned that her own affinity was around 80%, which was considered elite. However, she believed a genius like Su Hong would definitely exceed 90%. As the flame vanished, Su Hong took the crystal ball. He thought about how President Wu had become a Tier 5 master so young. She was a true genius. If she was only at 80%, reaching 90% himself would be absolutely incredible. Suddenly, the crystal ball began to shine, growing brighter and brighter until it was blinding. The president gasped, exclaiming that it was full. She hadn't been expecting this at all. She announced that Su Hong's fire attribute compatibility was a perfect 100%. She stared at him intensely and asked if he understood what that meant. She stepped closer, full of praise. Su Hong admitted he doesn't know the significance. The president explained that this meant he could absorb 100% of the fire attribute energy without wasting a single drop. She explained that with her 80% compatibility, she lost 20% of the energy during absorption. Yet, even with that loss, she had become a Tier 5 martial artist and the president of the association. She pointed right at his face, declaring that his future would definitely surpass hers. Su Hong sweated nervously. The president marveled that she had never expected a small place like Star City to produce a monster comparable to the elites from the imperial capital. While she spoke, Su Hong thought that the fire attribute was nice, but he actually preferred thunder. He thought that if only he had high compatibility with thunder, that would be perfect. Suddenly, the crystal ball lit up again, but this time it crackled with intense thunderous energy. This new development shocked the president even more. Su Hong looked at the ball and noted that his thunder attribute compatibility also seemed to be 100%. The president was completely speechless. She stood there stunned, wondering if she was hallucinating. Thunder and fire dual attributes at 100%? She could only conclude that this boy was a complete monster. Then, the glow shifted again. Su Hong added that his wind attribute compatibility also seemed to be 100%. The president stared in disbelief, wondering how something this outrageous was even possible. A few minutes later, she slumped back onto the couch, totally defeated, while Su Hong quietly watched her spiral into shock and panic. She muttered that this wasn't right. Every single element was full, all at 100%. She convinced herself she must be dreaming. She reflected that she once considered herself a top-tier genius. After all, a 30-year-old Tier 5 martial artist was incredibly rare. But after meeting someone who defied all common sense, she realized she was just an ordinary person in comparison. She realized that only another monster could ever hope to understand or defeat a monster like him. She muttered to herself about existences that ordinary people simply could not comprehend. Su-hong broke the silence, noting that all 7 attributes were at 100%. He complained that if he only cultivated thunder and ignored the other 6, it felt like a huge waste. It was actually quite distressing for him. He then boldly asked the president if she could just give him the guidance techniques for all 7 attributes. The president fell silent. She eventually explained that human energy was limited. No matter how high his talent was, it was best to focus on 1 or 2. She warned him that someone in the past had tried to cultivate all 7 at once, and after decades, that person was still stuck as a Tier 1 martial artist. Su-hong insisted that he couldn't decide right then. He wanted to try cultivating all of them first and pick a focus later. The president reluctantly agreed but warned him seriously. He absolutely must not squander his God-given talent. Then she changed the subject, asking if his school's monthly exam was coming up soon. Su-hong nodded yes, asking why she wanted to know. The president explained that friction in the all-heavens battlefield was intensifying. The Great War between the 10,000 races and humanity could erupt at any moment. Because of this, nations were pouring resources into a special genius training camp. She wanted to recommend Su-hong for it, but there was a condition. He had to take first place in his school's monthly exam. If he succeeded, she would secure his spot. Su-hong thought about the War of the 10,000 races. He remembered the conflict that had happened over a decade ago. He recalled losing all his relatives except his uncle and aunt when he was young. He told the president he understood and would work hard. In his heart, he vowed to never let that tragedy happen again. He had to become strong enough to protect his family. That night, back at home, Su-hong excitedly announced to his uncle and aunt that he had become an official martial artist. He proudly displayed his new credentials. His uncle and aunt started crying tears of joy. They exclaimed that little Hong had really succeeded. His aunt added that he had truly made something of himself and she was so proud of his capability. Su-hong revealed that a Tier 1 martial artist got a monthly allowance of $10,000, so his uncle didn't need to work so hard anymore. His uncle smiled, saying that little Hong was now the pillar of the family, and he'd listen to whatever he said from then on. Su-hong silently promised himself that from this moment on, he would carry the weight of the entire family on his shoulders. Later that night, alone in his room, Su-hong sat down to meditate intensely. When he snapped his eyes open, they were glowing with a deep red light. He clenched his fist, and smoke slowly drifted out from his fingers. He wondered if this was the basic level of the guidance technique. It seemed weak. He questioned why it felt like it had no power at all. Then he noticed a new entry on his system panel. The guidance technique had appeared, confirming he had successfully learned it. Checking the status details, he saw it was currently at level 1. He started wondering, could guidance techniques be leveled up like skills? President Wu had never mentioned this. If these techniques had levels, she surely would have told him. A sudden realization hit him. What if he was the only one who could level them up? What if he could solo level his cultivation technique? If you are excited to see just how powerful he becomes, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Su-hong stared seriously at the glowing blue panel. He wondered how to upgrade guidance techniques and if they improved the same way as martial value. As he touched the window, a red warning flashed. Insufficient martial value. Su-hong sighed. He decided to cultivate the other guidance techniques first and figure out how to earn more martial value later. He sat cross-legged on the rooftop, surrounded by books. Flames of spiritual energy burst around him, lighting up the area. Hours later, Su-hong's inner view showed 7 glowing points of spiritual qi. Each point represented a different technique, like thunder, water marsh, thick earth, and spirit wind. The 7 different attributes pushed against each other. Su-hong gritted his teeth, sweating. He understood why President Wu said a genius cultivating 7 techniques stayed Tier 1 for decades. He continued to channel the power, trying to control the energy as flames rose around him. He noticed that while all 7 types of qi existed in his body, he could only use one at a time. A ball of fiery qi formed in his hand as he breathed heavily. The flames swirled in his hand. He realized that if he forced a second attribute, the forces would collide and cause a violent explosion. A huge explosion of energy shook the rooftop, making both attributes disappear. Su-hong narrowed his eyes. Could thunder and fire not be combined? Their natures felt similar, so why did they reject each other? He tried again. Thunderlight and fire sparks wrapped around his fingers. When the forces touched, another explosion burst out, scattering the energy. Sweating, Su-hong clenched his teeth and refused to give up. He yelled to try one more time. Flashes burst from the rooftop all night as he tried to fuse the attributes. At dawn, the building still glowed faintly from the sparks of Su-hong's nonstop training. Breathing heavily with sweat running down his face, he told himself he just needed a little more. Lightning and flame flickered in his hand. He stared at it, insisting he only needed a tiny bit more. Gritting his teeth, he shouted for the power to fuse. Lightning and fire wrapped around his arms as he forced the energies together. A bright flame exploded in his palm. After trying all night, he finally succeeded. He looked at the flame with relief. Straightening his clothes, he decided it was time to go out and test the power. At Star City's Citizen Martial Arts Square, a large plaza with a clock tower, training robots stood ready. Su-hong stood before a spider-shaped combat tester. He noted that he had switched to a Tier 3 tester, hoping this one wouldn't break. Remembering that 50% power reached 3,000 previously, he decided to try 30% power first. He struck with his glowing fist. The result went above 2,300. He was surprised. At 30% strength, it should have been around 1,800, but it had increased by 500. He looked at the lightning in his hand. The power of thunder alone was already very strong. Then he clenched his hand to aim. He wondered how strong the fused thunder and fire would be, then released the combined force. His punch smashed into the tester with overwhelming speed and power. The screen flashed 3041. Su-hong stared in surprise. It was far higher than expected. He muttered in shock, wondering how it passed 3,000. Rubbing his hands beside the damaged tester, he realized that 30% of his fused power already surpassed a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist. He glanced at his status and sighed. His vitality was only 123, making the result even more terrifying. If the power was this strong with 2 attributes, what kind of strength would he have fusing all 7? The thought filled him with excitement. Watching the flames and lightning in his hand, he smiled. He decided to try fusing 3 attributes next time. Later, he lay flat on the rooftop, exhausted, shirtless and sweating. He breathed heavily as small lights floated around. Fusing 2 attributes was hard, but fusing 3 felt much harder. He had rearranged all 7 patterns repeatedly, but made no progress. Still, he imagined the power if he succeeded. He checked the system, wondering if leveling up his techniques would help. The screen listed his level 1 techniques like thunder, flame, and water. He remembered the monthly exam was tomorrow, and he needed to earn martial value. The next day, students gathered at Star City No. 1 High School. The principal walked onto the stage. The principal announced this exam was different. Due to frontline pressure, a special training camp would now be held yearly to select geniuses. He explained the camp had resources like powerful arts, rare pills, and grandmaster instructors. The top 3 students in the exam would join the Star City training camp. The students became excited, shouting about the genius training camp. Others were shocked that a Tier 7 grandmaster might teach, since their principal was only Tier 3. Su-hong stared ahead tiredly. President Wu had said if he got first place, she would give him a spot. But didn't the top 3 all receive spots anyway? A friend told Su-hong that Chen-shan and Li-tu were now Tier 1 martial artists, and others had learned Thunder Rush Fist. Su-hong looked confused. He had only missed 10 days, yet they had already broken through. He explained that the principal asked instructor Chen Tian to give private lessons. Now Chen-shan and Li-tu's vitality exceeded 100, and their Thunder Rush Fist could echo 3 times. Suddenly, Chen-shan and Li-tu walked forward. One said he wanted everyone to know who the real genius was. The other replied that he hoped he would stay confident after being beaten down. As the principal left the stage, instructor Chen Tian asked if he found the genius who used the 9 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist. Principal Li said he searched everywhere but didn't think the person was from his school. While talking, they heard noise behind them and turned. A man in a black suit approached with 2 others. It was Jiang Ming, Su-hong's spear teacher, with Li Ming and Li Yan. Jiang Ming joked, asking Principal Li why he looked so sad. The principal asked why Jiang Ming was there. Jiang Ming smiled, saying the students looked weak. He brought 2 disciples and suggested letting the first-place student spar with them after the exam. Principal Li's expression tightened. Jiang Ming had come to embarrass him. If he refused, it would admit his school had no talent. Jiang Ming said the students looked weak, so he would understand a refusal. Instructor Chen Tian snapped back, asking if Jiang Ming was looking for trouble. Nearby, Jiang Ming's student Li Yan pointed at the crowd. He told his teacher there was bad news. Su-hong was here. Jiang Ming was confused and asked which Su. Turning toward the students, he recognized Su-hong standing at the back. Jiang Ming shouted in surprise, realizing it was that same little monster. Su-hong looked at them calmly with a faint smile. Jiang Ming stared in shock, sweating. He realized the kid they talked about was actually from No. 1 High School. He looked at his disciples, troubled. If Li Yan and Li Ming fought Su Hong, they would lose. He needed to avoid the match to save face. He quickly smiled, telling Principal Li not to be angry. He said he was joking, and there would be no competition, calling his own disciples trash compared to the students. Li Yan and Li Ming immediately conceded. Principal Li and Instructor Chen were furious, thinking these men were mocking them sarcastically. Soon at the arena, a loud announcement called for match number 666, Su Hong, to begin. From the stands, Su Hong's friend watched anxiously. He noted Su Hong's opponent was a quasi-martial artist, which was unlucky. He shouted to Su Hong not to push himself or get injured so early. The opponent, Chen Ping, stepped forward. He asked if Su Hong planned to walk down or be beaten down. He clenched his fist to charge confidently. But before he could react, Su Hong moved. He disappeared and instantly appeared in front of Chen Ping. With one clean strike, he sent Chen Ping flying. The impact flipped Chen Ping upside down, and he crashed hard onto the ground. Everyone stared in shock. One student asked when Su Hong became so fierce, while others were stunned silent. Su Hong stood calmly in the smoke. Everyone realized he had defeated a quasi-martial artist in a single move. Su Hong stood calmly over his defeated opponent. The crowd shouted in disbelief, wondering how he became so strong, with some suspecting he was already a Tier 1 martial artist. They announced the final match would happen next. In the stands, Instructor Chen stared at Su Hong, confused about where this student came from and why he missed private tutoring. Principal Li blamed himself for failing to notice him earlier. Principal Li felt he had wasted a talent by not training Su Hong sooner. Instructor Chen mentioned Su Hong looked familiar but couldn't remember where he had seen him. They turned their attention to the semifinal match between Chen Shan and Li Tu, noting the winner would be decided soon. Watching the fight, they saw the two were evenly matched, making the winner hard to predict. On stage, Li Tu warned Chen Shan that since they both used the Three Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, Chen needed his strongest move to win. Li Tu then attacked with full force. Li Tu charged, slamming his fist down explosively. Chen Shan shouted as he blocked, the impact blasting wind across the floor. Chen Shan's fist burst with flames. He yelled at Li Tu to watch closely, declaring himself the school's true number one. The students shouted in shock that Chen Shan had mastered attribute externalization. They recognized the powerful fire attribute, second only to thunder. Li Tu stepped forward with a smirk, energy flowing like water around his arm. He scoffed that attribute externalization was nothing special. The students gasped again, seeing Li Tu also had externalized attributes. His was metal, even stronger than fire in combat. Metallic chains swirled around Li Tu's fists as he dashed ahead to attack. His punches echoed 5 times. Chen Shan was shocked to see Li Tu unleash the 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist. A violent impact followed. Li Tu's strike blasted his opponent backward, sending shockwaves across the arena. Principal Li and Instructor Chen were stunned. Li noted Li Tu had hidden his strength, while Chen marveled that Li Tu mastered attribute externalization and the micro-level Thunder Rush Fist in just 10 days. Principal Li said the final was pointless. Su Hong couldn't beat Li Tu's metal attribute. Chen sighed, saying Su Hong might have had a chance if he knew a guidance technique. Jiang Ming confidently bet 50,000 on Su Hong. Shocked, Li called him crazy for betting on someone without a guidance technique. Chen laughed, happy to take the easy money. The final battle began. Li Tu against Su Hong. Students cheered, some for Su Hong, others urging Li Tu to win. The fighters stepped onto the stage. Li Tu told Su Hong he was lucky to reach the finals without facing him or Chen Shan earlier. Su Hong remained calm. After hunting beasts, these students seemed weak, but Li Tu finally looked like a worthy opponent. Li Tu grinned, calling Su Hong the second strongest. Su Hong simply asked who the first was. Li Tu stomped the ground, declaring that he was naturally number one. He attacked, claiming one move would show the huge gap between them. Students panicked, seeing Li Tu use the 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist immediately. They feared it was already over for Su Hong, but Su Hong's eyes glowed with golden light as power built up inside him. Flames burst from his fist as he charged, wanting to test the limits of his physical body. The crowd screamed that Su Hong was crazy for meeting the attack head-on instead of dodging. Their fists smashed together explosively, shaking the ground. They clashed repeatedly, sending energy bursts through the air. Su Hong met the thunderous attack directly. Li Tu was shocked that Su Hong stopped his 5 Echoes fist instantly with just 5 punches. They fought on, fists colliding in a storm of blows amidst whipping energy chains. Li Tu gritted his teeth. Every punch from Su Hong felt overwhelmingly heavy, like fighting a monster. In the stands, a teacher exclaimed that Su Hong was evenly matching Li Tu without using any martial skills. His friend shouted that his strength was terrifying. The officials were stunned. Chen guessed Su Hong had a special physique. Principal Li laughed, proud the school produced such a genius. However, Chen noted that despite Su Hong's strength, Li Tu's condensed attribute still gave him the edge. The clash sent both sliding back. Su Hong steadied his flaming fist, while Li Tu was forced back several meters. Angry, Li Tu shouted that he would win. Blue lightning surged around his arms as he powered up. He lunged, fists wrapped in energy chains, demanding Su Hong accept defeat. Su Hong realized Li Tu was no longer holding back and was attacking at full power. Since Li Tu went all out, Su Hong decided to show some respect. Flames burst from his fist as he sprinted to meet the attack. Lightning burst across the arena. Li Tu yelled in shock, realizing Su Hong could also use attribute externalization. Principal Li and Instructor Chen trembled as golden lightning filled the arena, leaving them speechless. They were stunned Su Hong had mastered the thunder guidance technique. Chen explained that a special physique combined with the thunder attribute made him terrifying. Su Hong and Li Tu clashed again, causing lightning and chains to explode everywhere. Li Tu realized with alarm that Su Hong's thunder attribute was stronger than his own metal attribute. Lightning coiled around Su Hong. He told Li Tu that since he revealed his ultimate move, he would answer properly. Su Hong's eyes glowed gold. He announced his ultimate move and charged using the Thunder Rush Fist. His strike landed explosively. The impacts echoed rapidly, driving Li Tu back as 9 echo bursts blasted across the arena. 9 echoes? Impossible! Li Tu shouted. Blood burst from his mouth as he crashed to the ground. Su Hong stood over him, thunder still crackling around his fists. The students fell silent, their faces frozen in pure shock. Someone finally asked if he won. Excitement erupted as they realized Su Hong reached the perfect realm. 9 echoes, surpassing even the teachers. Instructor Chen stuttered in disbelief. Principal Li trembled, declaring Su Hong not just a genius, but the dragon of Star City High. Chen wiped his sweat, imagining how devastated other geniuses in the training camp would be facing a monster like Su Hong. As Su Hong walked away, Chen admired him. He said a golden carp transforms into a dragon when it meets the wind. Star City was too small for him. Principal Li agreed. He predicted Su Hong would rise like a dragon, shining brightest in the imperial capital and the battlefield of 10,000 races.